Okay,
Okay. Thank you so much, Martin.
thank you.
Thank you. I just posted it in the chat and I'll send it to you via email as well.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
So next up is I messed her name up. I'm gonna mess her name
Well,
up.
Paul Phillips was on
Mary Lou.
already
Mary
on.
Lou.
Yes, I don't see Paul Phillips. He's on the agenda, but I didn't see him.
Okay,
Is he
he's not.
here?
Okay.
Media Harlem Media Group. Anyone from Harlem Media Group? Okay. So
Okay.
let's move to Center for, for help me here, Daria.
Where did she go? Centro Cultural Dominicano. Marilu, are you still here? Where'd she go? She might have gotten disconnected. Let's come back to her.
Come back to her. Okay, Robin. My friend Robin, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thanks. So nice to see so many friends. I said,
Yes, it's good to see you again. What are you up to? What are you doing?
yeah, well, I want to start with a thank you. First for letting me come today. And I'm so glad that Joanna Castro was here. So she knows I was really here. She's the one that I was really dogging to get here today. So thank you, Joanna. But also, I want to thank the Community Board 9 in particular, because when COVID hit, everybody was scrambling. And most of the art and cultural organizations that I'm familiar with and I've been in touch with, they all end up having to cancel their programming for the summer, understandably so. However, Jazzmobile has been presenting the longest, New York City's longest running jazz festival for 55 years, and there was no way we were going to cancel. So thank you, right? So we just sent out an email to everybody, to our supporters, our partners, collaborators, donors, individual, the city, to say Summerfest will not be canceled, but don't ask me what it's going to look like because it's only March 15th, but something's going to happen. So what we ended up doing is we very quickly pivoted. We put our Sukasa program, our Saturday Jazz Workshop program, our Cultural Initiative program, and then ultimately Summerfest in the summer on JZM TV. So we created our own TV station on YouTube. And with the support of Community Board 9, West Home Development Corp, and others, we were able to get the word out to let people know that we had moved to our program to a platform that was virtual. And the response was, fortunately, was very positive. And then we were asked, "Oh, I missed it. Can you bring it back again?" So, for the month of October, we created Summerfest 2020 on demand, and we created a lovely brochure. And you could just click on the brochure, created by Miss Linda Walton, someone that all of you know. And you just click on the image, and it took you right into the JZM studio where that particular artist concert was. And so people really did get to enjoy it. We got a lot of positive feedback. Certainly people were saying, this was great, but when are you coming back live? And I said, if I knew that, we'd all be in a good place. But any event, so as we're looking forward to this season, we have an annual fundraiser that actually got postponed. So we're bringing it back, and it's Keep the Music Playing. We used to do it at First Corinthians Baptist Church on 116th and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. But I'm very happy to announce to everyone today, because it hasn't been officially announced yet, that Keep the Music Playing will be aired in April, which is National Jazz Appreciation Month. And it's being recorded in West Harlem, Community Board 9 District in, drumroll, the Denny Farrell Riverbank State Park in the Robert F. Smith Performing Arts Center. So we finally got the okay that we could do some virtual recording in that space for this event. So we're very excited and very grateful and thankful to everyone for that. And the other thing is that we're looking at I'm sure everyone's heard about open culture, which is the city is now, as of today, you can actually submit a application to get a permit. So you can do programming literally on the streets, the way Jazzmobile used to do it back when we had our float that was going around the neighborhoods. And the big difference is that they are actually going to allow for arts organizations and individuals to, excuse me, to sell tickets or make pass the hat to get donations. And that's a first for the city of New York. So we're actually exploring that. We're actually going to be looking for some other organizations that might want to collaborate and partner with us, so we could do it together. And I believe the maximum number of people you can have in that audience, socially distanced, is 50. So 50 people you can have at one time. And there are lots of other guidelines, and I'm sure if anyone's interested in more information, you can just go to Open Culture, just Google it, and all the details will come up. But it's a wonderful idea, and hopefully it'll work. It puts a lot of onus on the arts organization or individual that wants to present it, such as making sure there's a lane that's 15 feet wide for emergency, making sure that the no parking signs get up, making sure that you put your own barricades up. So, it's a bit of a heavy lift if you're a small arts organization like me. But in part, that's why I'm also looking for a collaborator, because if someone, is interested, we can work on doing something wonderful together. And the permit is for the day. And I mean, so it's not like just 2 hours. It can be, I can't remember the length, but you can get an all-day permit, and you're allowed to get, I think you can do 2 days in a row. If you want to do like a back-to-back program, you can also do that. So we're looking to be involved in that as well. And then the other bit of good news that hasn't been formally announced yet, but since we just submitted our capital grant request, we have submitted a request to the borough president of Manhattan and to the city council for funding so that Jazzmobile can build the Jazzmobile float. But officially, yes, right? So officially, it is called the All Electric Mobile Venue Vehicle. Yeah, the All Electric Mobile Vehicle Venue. So that, because it really is a venue for us. That's the only kind of venue we've ever had, whether it was rented or owned, that was part of our festival, was what was once called the float. It's going to look similar, but it will be different. It'll function a lot different. It'll be more, like I said, it'll be eco-friendly. But of course, it all depends if we actually get the money. But we did our part. We made the ask, and now it's in the hands of the borough president and the city council to determine if we're worthy enough to get this funding. And
will it be permanently parked somewhere, or?
Yeah, it's going to have to be permanently parked somewhere.
What about, well, of course we want it in our, let me just put it out there. We want it in our district.
Well, terrific. Well, I will call you after the meeting, and I'll just share with you one of the locations, the prime location that we're looking at, and you might even be able to be helpful, you as well as the board. We're looking at underneath the Riverbank State Park. Because I think the Parks Department, I think it has down to the 135th Street area, end of the park, it has some parking area under there. And so over between 135th and 145th underneath, there are a number of areas that we think would work. But we obviously have to get permission. But I would love to get everyone and anyone's guidance on how we should make that request.
Okay. So Regis, so we can talk offline,
Okay.
and of course that would bring a lot of interest to our community. So we of course would love to have it somewhere around. So yes. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow, but definitely let's chat about that. You have my
Absolutely.
email address, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure I do.
All right, very
I think
good.
I do. Yeah, and I'll forward you my cell phone and we can get numbers. But yeah, and if anyone else has any ideas, I'm open to anyone's thinking. And I'm looking at Michael Unthank, who has his hands just about everywhere. He might even have some ideas too.
Right.
Well, certainly give us some thought. I know that area underneath the park. That might be a good area. If you can get the Parks Department to commit, that'd be great.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, thank you.
We'll give it some thought.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks everyone for giving me the time today. I appreciate that.
Okay. Also, yeah. Okay. Those are great ideas. So we will talk. Thanks, Robin. It's
You're
always
welcome.
a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you. Same here.
Okay, we have Manuel. Take you.
I don't know if you all can hear me. I think I'm frozen because I'm having some internet issues.
I
But,
had some problem and I had
That's
to
Mary Lou.
switch. That's
Yeah,
Mary Lou, Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano. I have to
okay.
thank my husband for helping me connect my cellular. Just that was, well, when poof, but I'm here.
All right.
I just want to remind presentations to please keep it, because we have several, please keep it to 5 minutes or less. Can you all see me? Am I moving? No, right? Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is that
Maria?
me? Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me and for giving me the opportunity. Many of you know me, and I usually participate in the land use and also the art and culture. One of the things that I want to bring to everybody's attention is please keep following Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano. We just had a fabulous concert of yesterday celebrating Dominican independence. It was outstanding. We had 2 young violinists from high school, and that's from Marymount High School. And then we had a seasoned guitarist, Jack. He was fabulous. Plus we had a tenor and a pianist, very, very, very well versed and with a lot of training. So everybody was just enchanted. Somebody put us on TikTok and everybody's going up in arm. But anyway, anybody that knows us, they know that we are doers and it's constant. But I want to bring to everybody's attention that we were fortunate to have had and to, so far we have been collaborating with West Harlem Development Corporation, in addition to Children's Art Carnival and before with Michael when he was also in Harlem Art Alliance. But we have a very ambitious project this year, and is that we are doing our archive. We were able to get some funding. It's a very big project. You know that we are around 145th and 47 and 46 and Broadway since 1961. This organization was founded in 1962. This is our 59th year. And we have been cataloging and trying to do some work for the longest, because we do get the senior summer program from Harlem, West Harlem Development Corporation, and they have been helping us in, trying to organize some of our material. So I have to thank them very much. They have been with us since they started with the program, young and senior plus, like mature like us, plus. So they have been doing a great job. But this year, we were fortunate to get some funding for the archive. And also, one of my dreams is to have Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano in perpetuity, moving forward. And as you know, we are not going to be here forever. Nothing that we have will be taken with us. So my permanent home is on 153rd Street for over 40 years. And that's where I know for sure that I'm going to be. But I have to make sure that Centro has something moving forward. So we are trying to see how we can remodel where we have Centro. My husband has been instrumental, and us, the two of us, using our Social Security and our pension to really make sure that Centro continue forward. So we were also able to secure some fund for architecture consultation. And we have been in touch with 3 different West Harlem architect firm. One of them has been very forthcoming, and we are in the process. You know that it's not easy. It's going to cost a lot of money, but we're very thankful that West Harlem Development Corporation had been able to, as they have done since they started. Those were Harlem Development Corporation plus Columbia University are, I would say, our core supporter, because we get in-kind space, and we are able to do the concerts. Now we did it on Zoom. So I just want you to know that that is a very, very dear project for Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano and my husband and myself. And we need everybody's help and everybody nurturement. And I think all of us in the community and those individuals that are in this meeting now, they know that our objective, every one of us, is to really push our community to show and showcase and demonstrate our potential and how much the city depends on what we have. So having said that, I don't want to go into Children's Art Carnival because that's another project that we are very proud of the outcome and how much work and energy both Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano and Children's Art Carnival have been doing for a number of months. So there's a lot of good things happening at Centro Cívico Cultural Dominicano, and everybody that knows us, just visit our pages, our Facebook, Centro Cívico Space Cultural Dominicano. Thank you for your time, and I'm not going to overpower you anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All of the presentations seems as if you're really doing the work in the community, and so we appreciate that. So we're going to move on. I don't see Paul Phillips. Is he here? No? Okay. We're going to move on to old business and the Artist Speaks update. Melvin McCrae, filmmaker, and Daria Hardiman.
Hello. Thanks for having me on. I wanted to let you know a couple of things. First of all, I think I mentioned in my last meeting that we are working with the Fortune Society, and we have a group right now of 14 students in a iPhone photography and iPhone videography class. And this, we're actually in the videography portion of it right now. We did the photography, and we got a donation of 50 iPhones from Apple, and as well as some funding. So we are now, I just got the word that we are going to be partnering with Fortune and the Museum of Modern Art on Fortune's spring art exhibit. And so MoMA PS1, which is an annex out in Queens, has given us some space to hang our photographs that are, and this is a group that's made up of clients of Fortune who are transitioning from incarceration, as well as members of the community and MCB9. And so this is a sort of a combined group of adult men and women, and they have done some extraordinary photographs, and we're happy to say that we're going to be exhibiting at the Museum of Modern Art, PS1 out at, this is going to take place in April. Daria and I have been working on a project in which we're going to showcase CB9 artists. And so I have a list that I got from Daria, and I haven't really figured out what the format is going to be. There are two ways to go with this. One of them is to fold it into our Harlem Through My Eyes project, which is a archive of interviews of people who live and work in Harlem. We've already interviewed about 50. The other way to go is to have a dedicated Harlem Arts showcase. And so we're just trying to figure out at this point which way to go, but we'll be starting very soon to interview artists via a platform similar to Zoom, but with better quality. And
Melvin, I just wanted to share with everyone that really Artist Speaks is about showcasing and helping and lending a voice to artists and how they have been able to navigate or not through this particular pandemic. That is our focus. What we as a committee have been willing to do, or we talked about doing, is Mr. McCrae is also working on a different project, and he's going to weave it into his current project, and we will take the segment that pertains to us, which is, I don't want to get away from our focus, which is how has this pandemic affected? It's almost a snapshot in time. So that everybody will know. And there are some people on this line like Robin and Mr. Untank and Martin that will probably have some kind of voice as to how they have been able to navigate or pivot or whatever, so that we can record this moment in time. So if you do want to be a part of this project, please let us know. You can email me or Mr. Melvin about it, or Daria, who is the lead in this project. And so that's basically, so we may be a part of a larger project, but the focus is on the pandemic and how you've been able to pivot. I'm sorry, Mike, I just wanted to give them, Melvin, I'm sorry, I just wanted to give them a backdrop.
No, that's
Let me
great.
just, can I jump in here for a sec? Exactly. Yes and yes. It is still, as Melvin said, we're still trying to figure out. We don't know what artistically, we don't know exactly what it is yet. That is the focus, as Rosebud has said, in terms of the committee and what our intention is. And we're going to keep that in mind when it comes to the artistry of it, the editing and all of that. In terms of how big the project is, we already sent the list to Melvin. So I don't want to put him on the spot adding a whole lot more. So that's why I'm jumping in, and I'm sure that there are a lot of voices. Melvin, I just want to double check with you, because I sent you a group of individuals, and I definitely would love to have the voices of some of these organizations. Does that work with what you're thinking?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So could
everybody put that is interested in being interviewed, please put your contact information, name, phone number, organization, and email address in the chat. As a matter of fact, no, don't do that. I'll put my email in the chat and email it directly to me. And please put in the subject, artists speak, please, so I can search them all at the same time if I need to. Artists speak in the subject line, and I will put my email address for you in the chat.
And this is a real opportunity for, when we look back at this 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, we can say, here's where we were. So I would highly recommend, if anyone is interested, to be a part of that conversation, to do this.
I wanted to maybe if you needed some resource or any kind of support, to say that the carnival actually has referencing your workshops, your photography workshop that you mentioned. We have a dark room that's functional, fully functional. And obviously it's difficult to use it during COVID, but to put that in your head. And the other thing is, we do have some experience thanks to West Harlem. Mary Lou mentioned a collaboration with the Carnival and Centro Civico. We're about to launch a virtual exhibition of West Harlem artists as a result of the COVID grant that West Harlem gave us. And the art that has been submitted is absolutely fabulous. It's really quite striking. So we have been working with the designer, and if we could help in any way, if there's some assistance or advice or whatever that we could do, or collaboration we could have in terms of some of the work you're doing in terms of the Artist Speak, we'd be happy to collaborate or work with you. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
I said I didn't have anything to present. but
Michael,
I just throw that in there. I'm sorry.
Are you still accepting submissions for your?
Well, submissions have been closed now. We're actually about to launch it as soon as the site is finished, which I think I can't remember the exact date, but it's within the next week. And but we are planning to do this on an annual basis at least. We might have one in the summer, and obviously we don't know what's going to go on with COVID, but it's still, if COVID is over, I'm sorry, I don't want to take up any time, but if COVID is over, for example, and people can start to gather again, we could still do it virtually and in person, so we definitely want to, again, we talked about this a couple of months ago when we presented at the committee meeting, but this is all a result of West Harlem giving us a grant and a fabulous collaboration with Central Civic.
Thank
On
you.
that note, and I'm sorry, I want to emphasize something. We have been sending the information to the community board and I, site and email. They did publish the first one that I sent, and also Norma, when they were calling, it was an open call to artists. And, we have been keeping the community informed because, as Michael said, this is a collaboration. But it's
I'm sure. I don't want to get off the subject
No,
right now. I just wanted to let everybody know, if you wish to be a part of this Artist Speak revolution. I called it a revolution because by the time we finish, it will be just that. So, Mr. McCray, did you have anything else you wanted to add to the project?
No, I just wanted to let people know they can get in touch with me directly at melvinmccray@gmail.com. That's MELVINMCCRAY@gmail.com. And I'll also give out my number. I'm at 917-748-4122. So I'd love to collaborate. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. We look forward to a better update and a more intricate update next month. Thank you so much, Mr. McCray, and your efforts to bring forth the voices of the artists during this critical period. And everybody else that worked on it. Daria, we thank you. It's just really, she's been working on this throughout the month with Melvin, and it is very detailed. So next up, we have the development of we haven't found a name for it, but the development of the West Harlem Art Organization, its update. The lead person is Jonathan Senegal, and special guest, Mr. Zaid Ramadan, Interim Director for WHTC. Welcome, Mr. Ramadan.
Hey guys, good evening.
And Jonathan, go ahead.
Hey. Good evening, Mr. Ramadan.
Good evening, Jonathan.
Mr. Ramadan and I had a conversation back at the beginning of February with Joanna Castro and also Mickey Noella. And I thought it was a very fruitful conversation. Raised some questions, and I am glad to see Mr. Ramadan here tonight.
My pleasure.
And I think we agreed to continue the conversation, as I recall, and that's why I think we're here tonight, is to what is the next step to realize what we can do to create this sort of arts organization for West Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of, give it over to you to kind of flesh out what you think the direction should be.
Yeah, it's good to see Mike. Mike, good to see you. You were there when we were creating NOMA, and you were watching from your perch here, and you saw that the conversation that Jonathan just spoke about is a conversation that's going to be ongoing for some months. Okay, you just don't create an organization that's effective and serves tons of artists and tons of art groups and the district overnight. This is something that takes time, but I'm, as Marty Collins will know, a colleague of mine who helped create NOMA, et cetera, is I'm very ambitious and I'm very aggressive in my timelines, and I like to move as quickly as possible. I really believe, and I have always believed, that CB9 has deserved its own dedicated arts umbrella organization for CB9 to serve CB9 artists and art groups, exclusively. And I really think they need that exclusively now. And I'm saying exclusively now because it doesn't need to be exclusively in the future, but it needs to be established and it needs to serve itself. I really believe that because from the positions that I've held in the past, whether on the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone as the vice chair of the Cultural Affairs Committee that did granting in the arts in Northern Manhattan, I know we've granted CB9, CB10, and CB12. I mean, CB10, CB11, CB12, but I think there was a limited amount of granting directly in CB9. I don't mean for CB9, because there could be arguments made that we gave money to other organizations to serve CB9, but I think directly to CB9 for CB9, putting it into the earth here. And I think that that's something that's been missing over the decades. I'm not going to say years, it's been decades. And I know that for a fact. So I'm sorry if I sound like I'm evangelizing about it, but you know what?
You evangelize, you're preaching to the converted, aren't you?
So good. We're on the same page. So this is my preamble, right? I'm pretty dedicated to that cause. Now, I do think that you have to proceed with caution and walk swiftly, but keep your head on a swivel. You want to make sure that the politics are taken care of. You want to make sure that the funding's all correct. You want to make sure that your partners are all holding hand in hand together. And what you don't want to see is, special interests or anything like that. This is an organic development that's going to happen to create a corporation with people whose only mindset is and vision and mission is the service for all artists and art groups in CB9. Now, I just want to tell you about a big picture approach. For any organization to do funding into a community, right? So there's hundreds, thousands of artists in CB9. There's tens or maybe over 100 arts organizations, maybe more in CB9. For an organization such as a funding organization such as WHDC, to do funding to all of them would be kind of insane. It would take over all of our time. And so we learned that at UMES, and we also understood that in Washington Heights and Inwood when we created NOMA. We realized that we weren't getting any funding because whenever all the different groups were asking for funding, they were actually competing against each other. Mm-hmm. And they weren't working together and saying, give our community some support. And this organization, right, which has a working board of directors, for instance, will be, that's just for instance, right? I'm not dictating at this point, will create services for all of the artists and art groups that they will all benefit from, and it will help them all grow and prosper and collaborate and work together, not against each other, not pulling the rugs from under each other's feet. So here is my suggestions for next step. And this is what I believe should happen. And this is what I believe in West Harlem Development Corporation is a direction it should go in for this next step. And that is, rather than be this person who sounds like he's dictating, I really believe that we should bring in a couple of consultants. We pay for them, and they meet this would be their arena. The CB9 Cultural Affairs Committee would be the place on a monthly basis or more if necessary, if you guys deem it necessary due to a special meeting because something is happening in this development that's very important for people to be involved in. But the consultants should come and guide Community Board 9, for instance, and artists and artists and art groups should come to this forum. And those consultants should kind of hold their hands and walk them through the process. I don't think that WHDC should dictate the process. I think that bringing the right consultants who are from this community, who know this community, who are highly experienced, that you really, really respect, and I know that because you'll know when you meet them, you know that as well, that have done this before, have been extremely successful, have tremendous access to resources and funding and the ability to do this all, I think is the best way to go. So my suggestion is that we bring a couple of consultants to work with you to talk about this process and start moving it forward at a more rapid pace.
I know, Martin, you have to leave. So I just wanted to chime in really quickly, and it's a little actually not quite straightforward to what you were saying, Mr. Ramadan. But Jonathan, did you get a chance to speak with NOMA as well?
No, no, I did not.
Because that's what we're doing. I have to write a resolution. So we're trying to get information about the other arts alliances and basically like the money that we're missing and basically what they do well. I'd like to know about, because I'd like to be able to cite those things in the resolution, to support that this is happening in Northern Manhattan and this is happening in Central Harlem, and we don't have that. So, to support what you're saying, Mr. Ramadan. But right now, we are gathering in terms of what's happening already here in committee. We're gathering that information, and as soon as I get it, it is my intention to have the resolution by our next meeting, which is the first Monday in April.
Jonathan, I'll be in touch via email with you tomorrow. I'll copy Daria and Harriet on that email. Okay.
Okay, I'm available for, I'll make myself available to you.
Thank you.
Whenever you have time. I appreciate
I'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
I do want to share with you some steps that we took. I'm the founding chair of NOMA, and I was the chair of the Cultural Affairs Committee that actually held the meetings to drive NOMA. So I was Harriet and Daria back in the day, and I was driving the meetings that led to the creation of NOMA. And we did things that were very careful. And this is, to me, I think if I take a lesson from some of the successes that we had and what were they based on, this is what I would say. We put decision-making about what it was going to be in the hands of the artists. Let me explain. We said, all artists and art groups, please come to our committee meeting. We're going to talk about the creation of an arts organization that's going to serve you. And all of a sudden, 150 people showed up. We literally plastered, Marty remembers it well. We plastered the community, 150 people showed up. And they said, well, what do you want to do? We said, we want to create an arts organization that serves you. They said, what are you going to call it? I said, I ain't calling it nothing. You're calling it something. Let's think of names. And we did a charrette. They came up with 9 names. We kept on crossing names off the list till we came down to 2, right? And we said, let's think about why we want to call it Northern Manhattan as opposed to Washington Heights and Inwood Arts Alliance, right? That was very specific. And we had, we had understandings, and the community, the artist community said we should name it NOMA. The acronym works. We like the name. It helps us incorporate our arts collaborations in the future with other Northern Manhattan communities, et cetera, et cetera. So we allowed them the ownership of creating the name. And then they said, what will our logo be? I said, you're the artists. You come up with the logo, and whoever wins, you get $1,000.
Where'd you get $1,000? Because we don't have $1,000.
No, we're going to give it to you. West Harlem Development Corporation is going to fund this process.
Okay.
That's the plan, you know,
So you're saying funding, even the consultants that would give us the best advice,
yes,
that the funding would be there also?
yes.
Thank
Okay.
So
you.
the goal for West Harlem Development Corporation is to finance the creation of an umbrella organization for CB9 and
Okay.
potentially fund it on an annual basis
Okay.
going forward. Because the way I see it, I've looked at the funding for the arts and the cultural affairs organizations in West Harlem over the past several years, and me personally, I found it lacking. I think we could do more, but we have to do more responsibly with an organization that does it, that will be able to do it the best for this community and responsibly. But, so I just wanted to share with you that we let the artists choose the name. We had them do the logo. When we said, what's our mission statement? We said, well, what do you want us to do for you? They were like, look, we need classes, technical assistance programs, right? We need, oh, okay, you need technical assistance programs. Okay, we'll do some classes like that. What else? How about funding? Okay, you guys want to, so it's a lot of things about support. They actually wrote, and we like wordsmith together, but they were there, and 100, and the numbers started getting higher and higher. All of a sudden, 200 people started showing up to meetings. Literally, we had to go to large auditoriums and ask like the hospital to use their things because these people started buying in. Now, I guess, I don't know if we knew we were doing this at the time. We were getting buy-in. We were getting people, the artists really believe that people are looking out for them? Really? And the answer is usually no. And usually they know they have to like scrape and compete, and it's just so hard. They realized that this organization was being created for them, by them, and you know, by them, for them. And we were just the vehicles to get them there. And once that organization, you know, was created, there was trust within the group of people who helped create the mission statement, the vision statement, right? Now, of course, I'm just going to give you my experiences. Of course, people vied for leadership and control and all that stuff, but that wasn't the best route to go. And I think consultants will help guide you in directing. You know, it was really funny. I asked an executive director at NOMA, a past one. I said, hey, how many artists were on the original executive, on the board of directors? And she's like, gee, there were none. And we're like, oh, how many were on the advisory board? They were like, all of them. We're like, oh, that's an interesting concept. But it turned out to be the most successful arts organization in the state of New York after a couple of years. And I think that the impassioned decision-making of boards who were business people who brought resources to the table and made sure it ran effectively and that people were treated with equity across the board, right? I think that was part of the success. Now, those are all things that happened that I experienced, and I want to share that with you. More experienced consultants could take you in a different direction, and that's cool, because I think that that's the conversation that needs to be had at this forum. But I really believe that this forum, and this is how we did it. You know, we said, where is the public sphere that artists and art groups can come together in a trustworthy manner to serve them? So the organization would be, the community board is, this committee is, and you guys should be the ones to create the platform for this conversation going forward. And I believe that doing that would be the best way forward, and bringing experts to help you and guide you through that process should be the immediate next steps.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you will then fund for these particular
Consultants.
experts
Mhm.
to really give us some guidance.
Mhm.
I'm not sure about anybody else on this committee, but I don't know where to find such
Yeah.
experts
How
to
do
be
we source
funded? How do we
That's our
find?
job.
Okay.
That's our job.
So
We'll do a call out.
so the consultants themselves will come in, and of course we would know in advance who they are and what accomplishments they can bring to the table, and how they understand the peculiarities and the strength of our community, right? So we will know that in advance, right? So they would come in and they would consult with the board, this community board, and then we would create a forum for artists. Is that the track you're saying?
No. I mean, basically, in my opinion, and what we did at the community board, and Marty, remind me if I say anything wrong, is that the Arts and Cultural Affairs Committee, for the next 6 months, we had a half an hour slotted for the creation of an arts or an umbrella arts organization. So for the next 6 months, it was like, okay, folks, you know, either the meeting is over or the meeting is just starting at 6:30. From 6:30 to 7, we're only talking about this umbrella arts organization. And then you just have that conversation, and they say, okay, here's what the progress that was made this month. And you can have other conversations, obviously, with the people the consultants that would be hired to help you in between those meetings. So your meetings are very pointed and effective.
Yes, I have to go, but very quickly to build on, piggyback on Ziad's point, the Uptown Art Stroll started in the same measure with conversations of a half hour to 45 minutes that preceded the regular business agenda at the then Economic Development Committee meeting of Community Board 12. I was the chair of the Economic Development Committee at the time when Ziad was the chairperson of the Community Board. And then likewise, Ziad followed a similar boilerplate as they moved ahead with the establishment of the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. I want to wish everybody a great evening. They're about to turn off the lights. I'm out here in Brooklyn. I don't want to stay here with the janitor, the porter, and everybody's going to be cleaning up this lovely campus. And I'm going to go home and catch some dinner. Everybody have a great meeting, and I look forward to the next steps in this exciting process.
Good night,
Good
Mark.
night.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
going forward, can we, sorry, Anita, you wanted to say something?
I just said goodbye.
Oh, okay. So Ziad,
Ziad, like Z
Mr.
minus,
Ramadan.
Ziad. No,
It's
forget about
easier.
Mr. Ramadan. That's my dad.
Mr. Ramadan is easier.
All right.
So can Jonathan set up another appointment so with us, possibly, if that's okay with Jonathan, so that we can literally, I want to write down steps. Like you are very, you've done this before. So I want it on paper so that when I present the resolution at the next meeting, I also want to be able to have a concise list so that I can, so that we're wide open. Everybody knows what's next, how this is going, and all of that. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
We do have
Reverend Morgan Thomas.
Reverend Morgan Thomas on the line today, and just to catch you up, we just wanted to tell you that Mr. Ramadan has graciously suggested to us that our next step should be to hire consultants that helps us through this process. Not us, the WHCC would be the people that hire them, so that they can give us parameters and how we should look at the creation of the arts organization. Then after that, if I'm hearing them correctly, we would have a forum to invite artists of all kinds in, so that they can have a voice in the creation, the name, the logo, everything. So we would have a community forum announcing the creation. Now, Mr. Ramadan, is that including art organizations? This forum would be okay.
You're welcome.
So everyone would be welcome. Now, under the creation, Mr. Ramadan, help me if I just want to get an understanding. The umbrella is that there's one organization that gets funding and they fund the other organizations, correct?
Right.
Instead of
Similar
having
to
lots of
NOMA.
funding
So-
going on.
So just to give you a microcosm, NOMA would get, let's say, $100,000, and they distributed the $100,000. They did a little grant that said local artists get 2 to 5 and local organizations get 5 to 7, whatever it was. But and then we ended up like giving out like, and there was like qualifiers. And if you, obviously if you weren't qualified, you didn't qualify. But I mean, like we ended up giving out like, I think it was $75,000 the first year, 67 the next year, 82 the next year. I mean, no one had ever in their first 3 years given out that much money to that many artists and art groups in their own little community. And it was very successful. And they did it, and people acknowledged it and loved it. And there were, advisory board artist leaders as sort of like, gatekeepers to ensure that the way things were done were all copacetic.
And
So Gia, wouldn't it be feasible to look at involvement? I think when you and I talked about this before, we talked about somewhat of a partnership with Northern Manhattan to act sort of as a mentor towards assisting MCB9 with the development.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. I think collaborations into the future are a must. I mean, I think that this umbrella arts organization, for example, like this, to me, since I know the way they function, how they were created, et cetera, to me, I say, for example, you have a technical assistance program, right, that NOMA does, and it's got like 10 classes. In the future, maybe you guys, maybe West Harlem does 5 and they do 5. And so the West Harlem artists go up to Washington Heights for 5 of those classes, and then the Washington Heights and Inwood artists come down to West Harlem for 5 of those classes. So then you start collaborating and you start splitting the costs, as opposed to doing 10 and 10. You have forums where you collaborate and cooperate in order to save money, save funding, and really enhance each other. One of the most important things that came out of the creation of NOMA was collaborations. Artists who did the same thing had no idea each other existed. Then, here's something crazy. About 5 people got married through NOMA just by meeting other artists. I'm not even joking. But I mean, but artists like a theater group would get together with a choral group, and all of a sudden they made beautiful art together. And then those 3, and then, you could apply for grants as the organization of NOMA, which they always did, and they won a lot. And then you can collaborate with 3 or 4 groups that you finally are in the same circle with, and you can collaborate and say, look, we want to provide, apply for a grant somewhere else, with the city, with the foundation, with a philanthropy. But to me, the most important thing, is the case for unity. And Michael remembers this. Michael Unthank used to, watch us as we were growing, and he saw that the unity that Central Harlem had sometimes and was lacking up there. In fact, UMass funded a consultant, the Bronx Council on the Arts.
Okay.
They gave them money to come into Washington Heights and look for a viable umbrella organization that already existed, or a lot of groups that came together under one. And they said, there are none. These people are competing against each other, and no one's getting funding. And it's unfortunate. They really need to be brought together in unity. And once you do that, then you speak as one voice.
Right.
One voice as a community artist, and you say, we are West Harlem, and this is our arts organization, and we're all in this together. And so, for example, when you have gallery openings, you can say, we're going to have 5 galleries, we're going to divide 4 groups, etc.
I mean, I totally get, but I guess what I'm trying to assist the committee with doing is going ahead and starting the foundation and the structure. So the next steps is really for them to decide on an organization to meet with, to talk, be it Bronx Council. I don't know if, what's her name, the director is still there. She was
no, who's there now is Viviana.
Okay.
But I will say that, Ziad, that That's a great idea, and I think that it's clear that West Harlem is very rich, and we could use those services. There are folks like Robin, and I see you dragged Joanna down to your office, and I think that's fantastic. And that have been around, and me, who've been around for quite some time in terms of what the local arts councils do, what those models are, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And I think that certainly our experience when we were at Harlem Arts Alliance in terms of the kinds of collaborations that were formed, the kinds of unity that came about across both organizations, even large and small organizations, meaning cultural institutions, large cultural institutions in Harlem, and artists and smaller arts organizations that had never really worked together consistently in the past came together, and it did build a strong engine. And I think that our collaboration with NOMA was, our collaborations with NOMA were fantastic. So I see the potential, and I think that we would love to, connect with you and make sure we're engaged so that we can support such an effort.
Yeah. So Reverend Morgan, what we're saying is that we think the next step is for WHDC to fund consultants to give guidance to this process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to give guidance to this process, to keep it moving forward. You passed a resolution establishing that this is what you want. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
That gives us a green light to say, let's work together. And what we'll do is we'll be on the funding side, and we'll bring consultants to you to work with you going forward. And we hope to get this done sooner rather than later. I'm not a person who's
Right.
who thinks I'm gonna live next.
I agree that it should be sooner than later. However, the committee does need to have the opportunity to wrap, their expertise around it, and also to do it at a time that they are completely ready to function and to move forward with. So the next step certainly would be consulting with an established organization. And that's something they need to discuss and come up with. Because the other thing that's important is the culture of whatever organization is selected to do the collaboration, needs to be similar and familiar. And most of the arts groups that I think that we could collaborate with would have similar culture.
So our goals are the same.
So, Mr. Ramadan, would the larger organizations in West Harlem, like the Harlem School of the Arts, Dance Theater of Harlem, would they roll in also under this umbrella? Would all organizations roll in under the umbrella in terms of funding from your organization? Will they all roll in under the umbrella, or is it a select few? Because I see that could be a problem.
Yeah, no, I think that, I always say this, listen, to every grantee that I talk to, whether it's in the arts, whether it's in youth and education, I always tell them this. And I grew up poor, so I apologize for being so frank. But I say, look, our goal, the most needy, and from there on up. That's how I do it.
Well, Ziad, I think that in that sense, in the sense of regranting or funding, from a funder, or even from like West Harlem, you develop from West Harlem Development Corporation, or from UMass. There are different tiers according to the amount of money that's available. And in some cases, for most of the regrant programs in the city, or all of the regrant programs in the city, for example, if you're receiving city funding, or if you're receiving state funding, then you're not really eligible for that funding. And that's what seeds the ground for young developing organizations, artist collectives, and for individual artists. Exactly. So there are other ways that larger institutions could be involved and supportive. And that's one of the things we found at the Arts Alliance.
Right, and also just being associated. So for example, if you say the Harlem School of the Arts with whatever the organization is going to be called, WA, right? With them are collaborating to bring some of the artists from West Harlem to work on this project. The forum is going to be at the Harlem School of the Arts, and we want the city of New York or this philanthropy to give us this money to address this. right? Because the 20 individual artists are not going to be able to represent themselves on an
Right.
application, but the West Harlem Arts Alliance representing them can get them in, right, on the application through them, right? And then they partner. So there's different ways and different levels. There is sort of a sophistication to this that Michael kind of like was insinuating. And if you heard what I said about the grants, there's a level for artists, there's a level for art groups, there's different levels for that kind of engagement. But I think that the largest organizations, the ones who have money and who are subsidized in a way, historically, they know that they're not going to get, that we're not here to try to, strengthen their foundation even more at the expense of the entire community.
Exactly.
But they also know that they're going to gain a lot by this collaboration with this new organization and being a part of it, even just as a collaboration effort and not necessarily as a monetary benefactor.
Right. Well, see, the reason I pose that question is that we want to have these smaller grassroots organizations thought of first.
Of course, yeah.
You
And
know
that's
what
what
I'm saying?
I think that's the goal, and to bring them together, because what you might find is a lot of these little, the artists and the little organizations might start gelling together and becoming little groups. You might find a whole group of musicians that say West Harlem Musicians Collaborative. The West Harlem.
I think the other point that Ziad, I think that you actually started out with in a lot of ways is that if the funding is one thing, you might say, well, $2,000 or $3,000 is one thing, whatever you might think of that. But and it is important. I'm not trying to discount it, but I think that the most significant part, and I think it happened with NOMA. I think to a great extent it happened with Harlem, and it happens with other organizations throughout the state, is a sense of community and pride and support, right, and identification of the arts community being a significant aspect of the community. Once you get that, everybody wants to be a part. Once you make that clear, everybody wants to get in.
Let me tell you some exposure. All of a sudden, everybody in the arts is exposed to who you are, right? Exposed to your excellence. Let me tell you how this came up. How this all started. I became the chair of the community board and I was riding the A train. I'm going down on the A train and I see this dude that I recognize from 181st Street because he wore some funky art clothing and had paint all over it. And I said, hey, I don't mean to bother you, we're on the train and everything, but where do you live? And he said, I live up there. And I said, it looks like you're taking your palette and your brushes and everything with you. Where are you going? He goes, down there. And I said, well, why are you going downtown? If you do art and you do these great paintings of Fort Tryon and the GWB and whatnot, why are you going down? He goes, I sell them down there. And people like my art down there. And I said, well, how about up here? He goes, ain't got nowhere to go. And that ding, light bulb hit. Ain't got nowhere to go. And then I saw another artist and another artist. And my eyes started opening up. I was looking for artists from Northern Manhattan. All of a sudden, I started seeing people fleeing the community. Right. I asked one guy in the art stroll, I said, hey, this is brilliant. This is kind of like crazy Picasso-ish stuff. I said, where do you go with this? He goes, oh, I go to the flea markets on Saturday down in the village. You guys remember that in the 80s, right? 90s. I said, how much do you sell these for? He goes, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, $50, right? I said to him, we have something called the art stroll. It's in its first year. I own a cafe. I want you to hang your art up in my cafe. But I'm your curator now. You're going to charge $100 and more for each one of these pieces. I said to him, what's the most you ever made? He said $80. He goes, that was a crazy day, man. I sold like 3 or 4 pieces. He sold like 9 pieces and made over like $700 that weekend. He couldn't believe I said, you were undervaluing your art. And that, another light bulb. Oh my God, we got to teach these artists how to value their art. And how to negotiate and how to be business people. You can't just be an artist. You have to be able to sell your art in an effective way. So a lot of things started developing. So from the art stroll developed the creation of NOMA. The art stroll was 2004. The NOMA idea came up in 2006 and 7. And it became like, look, it's not just about helping artists and exposing them. It's really about bringing them together and developing them. And that created such an artistic buzz in Washington Heights and Inwood that it started becoming more colorful. And you'd be surprised when you create an organization like a NOMA, you know what NOMA was able to do? We said, hey, in the art stroll, we have electric guitarists. We went to the parks department. They allowed us, they opened up the street lamps so they can connect electricity. So during the art stroll, you can walk through the parks at night and have somebody playing keyboard, someone playing guitar in the park at night
So,
using
yeah.
the park's property.
I get it. They became an intricate part. Anita had her hand up real
I
quick.
apologize.
No, go ahead, Anita.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, I don't know if this is the right time, but I just wanted to mention something I just got really excited from something you just said, Mr. Ramadan, about, we do have the Hamilton Theater that we're trying to, and those could be one of the, I'm also on the housing committee, and there were proposals for artist workspaces in there. And, a small theater, it could be, cross-pollination, this collaboration you're talking about, we could have a space eventually if we are organized and the community.
You know I'm laughing, right? You know I'm smiling, right? Part of the plan.
Great.
Yeah.
Good, glad to hear it. Another thing I wanted to mention, I worked with the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, LMCC, and I don't know, what their structure is compared to, NOMA. I don't know if they're similar or comparable, but I know what helped me is how constant they are. Yeah, they've been there and that really helps artists because I went to them at different stages in my career in different ways. As an emerging artist, as a young artist, my first grant, and then my mid-career grant, they provided support at different stages, and that was so incredibly helpful. But I think they have a staff and they have offices, and eventually this could be, way after, I'm gone, but I think that could also be a goal.
Yeah, LMCC actually, let me just see something here. LMCC actually has its tentacles throughout Manhattan, right? So they've become sort of a go-to funding source for a lot of different communities. In fact, I had a conversation with UMass and I said, so what are you guys doing about regranting? They said, we've changed our structure. We don't do regranting, but we have an agreement with LMCC and they do granting into the Northern Manhattan communities as well. So
right, I think they also do like 501c3 sponsorship.
Right, and so this organization would be a 501c3 and they would apply to LMCC to get money to say, listen, instead of getting 50 applications from West Harlem, we're gonna do one and distribute it to the 50. And they'll be much more joyful about doing things like that because they'll see that there's a comprehensive plan in that goal. So that's a very good point that you make, Anita.
Well, they actually have worked with us for quite a few years. MCB9 has a relationship with them for a number of years. They were the main organization that was helping us with our arts and cultural endeavors. So that, and then of course, UMass has funded them for many years. So that's an area that we can certainly pull in to assist as well in terms of direction and
Ziad knows that.
I think deep support.
I'm sorry. You know that Ziad knows that UMass didn't always fund LMCC to do that, and they can also change. LMCC funds regrants state money as well as city money in addition. So they have an infrastructure set up to do the regranting. But I think that's something to be considered. But I mean, there's a lot of a roadway between get from here to there. So I'm just saying that's not, you don't necessarily have to always see that as the reality.
Yeah, and I think that's what I opened up with. I think I said that
Yeah,
just to know, the first thing to know is that this is going to be a conversation.
right.
It's going to go on for a while, and let's start developing this child
Mhm.
and bring it to maturity. And I
Exactly.
think that's where the
But
conversation should be focused
Well, I
on.
think I just wanted to say that, you know, it's kind of parallel with, again, what we're doing in the housing committee, that, you know, we don't want temporary housing, we want, you know, permanent housing. So it's like, we don't want, you know, temporary support, because if we really want to incubate and cultivate, we need, you know, a long-term vision. And then I think the artists, you know, in CB9 will really surprise the world.
That's a very good point, Anita. Housing is a very good point. And as a matter of fact, a lot of great points was brought up tonight. I think we have sort of like a template now. We're going to we're going to have the resolution in place by I think the April meeting. You said, Daria.
Yes.
Anita expressed interest in working on that resolution. And of course, the lead person, Jonathan, if we could have that intact. And then from there, we will go into, I guess, Mr. Ramadan, we will talk offline about the consultant part of this,
Yes,
how that works.
Jonathan and I will set up a meeting, and if you want to be in the meeting as well, and we'll all of the details, we'll literally have it on paper all the way down.
For the resolution or for the?
No, the resolution, but I'm talking about everything that he's talked about tonight in terms of the steps, the thing, the forums, the meet, all of that. I'm gonna document so that we have it documented.
Okay, so that's between yourself, Jonathan, and Mr. Ramadan. Fantastic. And I think Anita wanted to be a part of the.
I got her with that.
I'm happy to be the assistant.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you, Anita, on the resolution.
So we will. So wonderful. So it looks like we have a very exciting path here. We're really excited about what is coming in the future. Anita, I would, if you could be so kind, I left you a note. You could give us some updates on the Hamilton project, since you are close to it. You're in housing. We would like to, if we can, get updates as to what is exactly happening with that project as it pertains to the arts. Is that a possibility?
Oh, Harriet, that makes so much sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that would, I mean, that would make our job so much easier if there were point people for different things. And we will put you on the agenda next month to talk about that, because that's a very exciting project. And Mr. Ramadan, that would be a perfect place to house the offices of this very said organization, I think. We hope. So very good. So we're going, thank you.
I just have one more thing, just real quickly. The other thing I wanted to mention to this committee real quickly is that and I mentioned this to you earlier, that there were 2 points. The other one real quick is West Harlem Development Corporation. You guys know our bland brown logo? We want to change it.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about it.
We want to change it. and we think that the best way to change it is by using the artistry of CB9. So we want to do a contest to change WHDC's logo, and we want to use CB9 artists only, and we're going to give $1,000 to the person who creates the next logo. So what we'll be doing between this meeting and the next meeting is giving you a flyer that explains the criteria. We're going to have, like, you know, some judges, like the president, you know, the artistic director of the Classical Theater Harlem be on the panel. We're going to get some people who you respect to be on the panel. It's not going to be us and nobody knows anybody, you know, no nepotism. It's going to be meritocracy, and it's going to be something that we like. We want it to be vibrant. It could connect to CB9 images or anything, or it could just be very colorful. You know, Noma was very interesting the way that was done. That was an artist, and we gave her $1,000 when she won. you know, and the people who voted on it were the people in the audience. They voted on it and said, that's the nicest one there. They yelled the loudest for that one, and that one won. And that's how Noma got their logo. So we wanted to copy the same sort of structure with WHDC's new logo. And we might even do a second and third place prize just to support all the, you know, as many people as we could who get involved, that produce something really nice.
So if you could send that that flyer so we can send it to Yutha, or you can send it directly to Yutha so that we can. That's
Right.
a very good idea.
Right.
And we look forward to seeing that and
Yeah.
seeing some exciting candidates for that. So okay, very good.
And that's
So,
going to be a nice microcosm for what comes in the future for the arts organization.
yes,
So
I
that'll be like
agree.
a test run, right, for the other stuff.
And we would also like to thank Reverend Morgan Thomas for her input. Please feel free to keep us, because I know you've built several things in the past, including the community benefit agreement, not you, but you and several other people. And we welcome your input into the creation of this organization. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It was a pleasure, and we'll talk.
All
Have a
right.
good night. All right.
All right, bye-bye. So just real briefly, the last thing on our agenda, look like we're going to end tonight pretty quickly. We have completed our old business, and our new business is really just updating you on the kinds of things, funding that's out there for independent artists. And I hope that you will share with artists in your organizations that they absolutely can apply for the PPP loans. There was a different conversation when this started. It was basically larger small businesses. And I don't know if most of you have realized, but that the PPP loans is getting more focused on the independent artists, the gig workers, the you know, ma and pop art organizations and shops. So if you or your organization have not applied, you should consider applying. And please spread the news in the community about these PPP loans. These artists don't have to have a great deal of documents. They should start off with the smaller banks, not the larger banks, because they have been given a great deal of money. The little banks in our community, such as Carver, and there are other smaller banks in our community that have been given these a great deal of money. But what's important to remember is that as of last Monday, the Biden administration now accepts gross receipts instead of net receipts. And what does that mean? That means that independent artists can take their 1099s to their Schedule C. Most people know what Schedule Cs are if you are independent artist or gig worker, and you don't have to deduct any expenses. That's very important. You take the gross amount and you submit that to the bank along with minimal documentation, driver's license, a bank statement, and you can get and qualify for these PPP loans. So please spread the word in the community that the PPP loans now is not for just small businesses, but they are for independent artists and gig workers. Now, I also had another email that was sent to me. The Hofstra Center for Arts and Culture is offering emergency relief micro grants for NYC artists and cultural workers. These grants are $500 grants that is sort of to help independent artists. And if you know any independent artists and they maybe need to pay their rent or do whatever, these grants are for them. And I think I can put this in the chat. I'm trying to put this in the chat, the link to this. And if you click on that, please, the best thing we can do as a community of organizations, all of us have artists in our organization. Please, please, please start spreading the word about how these artists can get the help. So that's basically all I have to share today. Before we close, Anita, did you have a question?
I just wanted to add to what you were saying, the small businesses, it's a application, maybe you guys know this already, but small businesses and individuals have exclusive window to apply until March 9th. I'm sending you the information.
Yes.
I'm sending it to you and Daria right now.
And that's on what? That's for what? The cultural
The
solidarity?
PPP that Harriet was talking about.
It's just a no-brainer for all of you.
And they've reserved a time.
Yeah.
They've reserved a time for only small businesses until March 9th.
Now, I was told by a business in the neighborhood that they got the SBA loan, and then when they applied for the PPP, they were told they would have to pay the SBA back before they could get the PPP.
All of that is false.
Anybody else? Huh?
All of that is false.
Yeah,
you can apply for a PPP loan if you got the EDL loan, if you got any kind of SBA loan. I think a regular SBA loan, if you are in default, there may be some
EIDL. They said
no.
Perhaps they were. I don't know. I argued with them too, but I did.
No, it's not so.
They said that that's what they were told, but I just want to double check, see if it happened to anybody else.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that is not true. All right.
I'm fairly new to the Arts and Culture Committee. Is there a Rolodex or a listing of of artists that is readily available that email blast can be sent to with all this information?
Well,
Not really.
Not really. What our hope is that the people that join us can really, are like feeders, can tell their independent and individual artists. We do need that sort of, we do share with some news with our artists, like all of these contests, but there needs to be a really a forum that talks about this for the independent gig worker. The reason that I know so much about it is because I'm also a business person. So the business community always gets the information, but the Biden administration have taken great strides to help the independent gig workers. And the only thing that we could possibly do is to send youth a small flyer, and she could let other people know. No, so to answer your question, no, there is not. But I would. Go ahead. Go ahead, Daria. Daria, are you frozen again? I think she's frozen. Okay, so, but that's a good idea. We should look at doing that. As always, I like, to have a point person for that, that can help us disseminate more information. We do have an artist registry also. Yes, Daria.
Sorry, my internet is unstable, so I'm frozen, and I hope y'all can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Sometimes I can't. I just wanted to jump into that question and piggyback off of what Rosebud was saying. What we really a presence to get the word out.
What did you say?
However,
I missed
as of a
the
couple
word
of
you
years
said.
ago,
Daria, you cut out for a second there. Do you mind just saying that again?
hold on, I'm trying to get this straightened out. Maybe if I turn off my video, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's my internet is unstable, so I'm having a problem. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me better now?
Very well, very clear.
Okay. I think my computer only wants to do one thing or the other, video or voice. So I'll talk really fast before it starts cutting me off again. What we really need, Tina, and to piggyback off of, what Harriet was saying, what we really need is social media presence. However, as of a couple of years ago, when I went and sort of tried to lead the charge in that direction, we just have not, the community board has not kept up with the times in that respect. And we're not allowed to have our own, because I volunteered to curate a arts and culture page, but we're not allowed to do it. And they always say, well, there's the community board regular page, but the community board's regular page is not actually curated. And as you know, like on a Facebook and that sort of thing, if there's no activity on it, then
No
it
one
falls
visits
out of people's, it falls out of people's news feeds and nobody ever sees it. And, and they'll be like, oh, we have a few thousand people following us. Yeah, but if you never put anything up, the day that you do, it still won't show to anyone. And also, unless the page interacts with other people, the way the algorithms work. So hopefully, everybody, Tina, if you want to take the lead on this, as Harriet was saying, I'm happy to support you in trying to, bring this to the attention, because eventually they're going to have to, they're going to realize that sending us 50 emails a day on a blast, it just doesn't always work. We miss so many things and important things. I realize it's all important, but it's hard to keep up with that and also, have a life and a business and whatever else people are doing. So you bring up that's a whole nother half an hour, and I know y'all don't want to be on here late. We getting out kind of early tonight. But that is something that, Tina, you had said that you would love to collaborate with Jonathan and I, and our meeting with Ziad coming up. Perhaps we can talk about that as well. And perhaps we'll have something, we can come up with something that we can present to the committee at the next meeting.
I think that's a great idea.
I could be involved in that project also.
Okay, love it.
I think with all of the media platforms, there should be something. It should be something that we should be able to have a page or something on, and that's a great idea, Tina.
Yeah, we got to figure something out, and it literally is going to be the first, because apparently the reason that we haven't been able to do it is because it has been against the rules. So,
yeah, and that is truly sad, Daria, because these artists in this community just don't have the money, and there is so much money out there. I was talking to a banker today, and she said the last round there was $1 billion left on the table, and so
and it's because people don't know.
Yeah,
they know.
She said that. She
And
said there's $1 billion.
This is our mission. This is what we should be doing.
Exactly.
Right.
So let's talk, Walter, Tina. Let's talk.
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Yeah. I'm here.
Oh, I thought Jonathan was interested as well. I'm sorry.
No, that was Walter.
Okay.
Walter and Tina, let's talk about that.
And
Jonathan.
Anita.
And well, listen, let's talk. I'll start an email thread and I'll just start a committee email thread and we can just start talking about it. And Victor, I don't know, Victor, are you there? Because he said he was going between our meeting and housing. You know, we just have to get some support because we're out here trying to bust down some doors and, you know, and tread new, you know, make new trails where boldly go where no man has gone before. And I think we can do it. We have to plead our case and figure out how we can make it happen. And in the meantime, perhaps we can figure out a way around it, some sort of something that's non-official until the official can catch up with us. So we'll
There's
talk.
such a plethora of information that you guys have that most businesses and most artists just are not aware of.
Yep.
And
the only reason I'm aware of it is,
Facebook page.
And that's so sad.
Yeah, the only reason I'm aware of it is because I am a business person more so now than an artist. So because the business people, they talk amongst each other and they have lobbied congressmen and to help both small businesses and artists. It is so sad that by March 31st, most artists who can get a whole lot of money will not, because they simply don't know. So we hope that you guys can come up with a solution. So thank you everybody. Thanks everybody for participating in tonight's meeting. If there is no other, I don't see anything else on the agenda. Does anyone else have any comments or anything else to say? No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Good night, everyone. Everyone have a beautiful, beautiful, and I will see you at
Good night.
Good night.